When we start getting not just Putin at the top, but all sorts of other figures within the system using this new environment of paranoia to carry out their own personal feuds and vendettas, that becomes a very dysfunctional process. He's trying desperately to drag some kind of victory out of what is clearly a strategic failure. And at the moment, he can't. I mean, I think he's basically just holding the line, hoping that if he can keep his troops in Ukraine, eventually Ukraine's capacity to continue fighting and the West's willingness to continue to spend what is, after all, billions of pounds, euros, and dollars we're sending to Ukraine in military and financial assistance every month. At a certain point, we might think, oh, that's it, we give up. So, this is kind of what Putin's looking for. He's trying to find something that could desperately be spun as a victory. And yes, to that end, he's impatient. He's probably, and look, who knows for sure what's going on in the dark recesses of his brain. He's probably a bit scared. Remember, this is a man who has seen not one, but two authoritarian regimes, East Germany and then the Soviet Union, collapse around him. So he knows actually just how fragile even what look like very tough police states can be. And yes, sometimes he intervenes, sometimes he micromanages the war effort, despite the fact that he has no meaningful military experience. Sometimes he's willing to sit back. And now, particularly, he seems to have generated this new mood of paranoia, in which it's not just Putin who is, for example, going after generals. It's almost that it begins to become open season for other people to prosecute their own vendettas. And we've had the recent case of arguably one of the most able senior Russian officers, General Surovikin, dismissed from his role as commander of the aerospace forces. That in part seems to be because he was suspected of being in cahoots with Prigozhin, in part Putin's own suspicions, but it also seems to have been driven by the current chief of the general staff, General Gerasimov, precisely because Surovikin was seen as a potential successor to him. So he's kind of picking off anyone who might replace him. So this is it. When we start getting not just Putin at the top, but all sorts of other figures within the system using this new environment of paranoia to carry out their own personal feuds and vendettas, that becomes a very dysfunctional process. In some ways, I think the drama is precisely a symptom of the fact that Putin can't help but feel that his grip on power is actually beginning to be weakened. I mean, the point is that in a properly organized police state, you don't need to actually kill people in this way, because essentially they all know the risks and they don't step out of line. The fact that Prigozhin first was driven to the point where he thought he could mutiny successfully, and then there was this kind of will he, won't he moment in which one minute Putin was calling him a traitor, then he was inviting him to tea in the Kremlin and also inviting him to his Africa summit, and now killing him. I mean, it comes across, frankly, as if not only did Putin fail to nip this in the bud before it became a problem, but also he flip-flopped on quite what to do, which is actually not unusual. Putin tends to actually shy away from tough decisions. But the point is, everyone knows this, everyone sees this. So on the one hand, I think in the short term, people are scared because precisely of what happened. People are going to be very, very careful to keep their noses clean. But I think there is this increasingly pervasive sense that precisely Putin's time may be slowly drawing to an end. It doesn't mean to say we can expect a palace coup against him next week, next month, or even possibly next year. But the point is that slow sense of ebbing away of power is something that we're definitely already getting from figures within the Russian elite.